Ever wonder if a retro platformer like Donkey Kong Bananza can still compete with epic crime sagas like Mafia: The Old Country? Well, welcome into episode 92 of the Game or Die podcast. I'm Ryan Moore, your guide through gaming's past, present, and future. Today's got a little bit of everything. Some throwback platforming, 80s cyberpunk action, and some Wild West chaos. We're jumping into Donkey Kong Bananza, checking out some Robocop Rogue City's new Unfinished Business DLC, celebrating my birthday with a big birthday stream, and recapping multiplayer madness when we played through Minecraft, and also we just started Red Dead Online. Plus, I'll share why Mafia: The Old Country is my pick for Game of the Month. Let's get started. First up on, hey, what you playin'? We've got Donkey Kong Bananza. It's exclusive to the Switch 2, and the Switch 2 just launched a couple months ago, and it launched with Mario Kart World. Now, I talked about it on the previous episode, I believe, and Mario Kart World is a totally fine Mario Kart game. I actually prefer it over all the other Mario Karts just because of the new additions. If you know me, you know that I kind of am sick of a lot of the standard formula that Nintendo really tries to push with their video games. Every single time they get into a franchise, they get stuck in this rut with developing the same game over and over and over again, and it just gets really boring to me. Mario Kart's been that way for pretty much since the inception of the series. You know, with Super Mario Kart, it was a great game, and then with with Mario Kart 64, it went into 3D. Kind of, right? And it was really, really cool. And then Double Dash changed it up a little bit. But since Double Dash, everything else afterwards have just been the same iteration of Mario Kart with pretty much no changes. Yeah, you got motorcycles, but they basically are just the exact same thing, but with 2 wheels instead of 4. The level design also is just very, very linear, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I just was really bored with Mario Kart World for the most part, except for the fact that they changed it up with an open world design. I thought that was really cool. I really liked how they had the Grand Prix have the levels bleed into each other. So as soon as you finished a race, you would actually race into the next area. So the first quote unquote lap was the traveling between the first track and the second track, and then laps 2 and 3 were basically just that, right? So it was really, really interesting, but it wasn't a console seller. I have no idea why that was the launch title. And it was the launch title because basically everything else on the system was just ports. And they're fine ports. You got, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom double pack, I believe, where it added some extra new stuff. Like what a game changer. I think Breath of the Wild is on there. I could be wrong. But everything else is basically ports. So it was just Mario Kart World Tour. A month later, Donkey Kong Bananza releases. And boy, oh boy, is this just a game changer for the system. Not only for the system, but for Donkey Kong as a character and Donkey Kong Country as a series. Because, like it or not, this is basically the new Donkey Kong Country. I streamed this entire game, full playthrough, all the way through from the beginning to the very end. And I got to tell you, I was grinning ear to ear most of the way through. I thought it was phenomenal the way that they added in all the new elements to make it from a 2D side-scrolling platformer to a 3D open world exploration game. So let me tell you a little background on how I came to get this game. Because if you know me, again, I'm not a big Nintendo fan. I loved the NES and Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. But after that, Nintendo really lost me as a customer. By the time GameCube came out, I was a full-blown teenager in high school. And even going into college, I was actually taking college courses when the GameCube came out. So I was really not wanting a kids system where the main games were like Luigi's Mansion and things like that. And since then, Nintendo's really gone with the more younger demographic. They're really, really into making children's games. And that has not really strayed over the last 2 decades. So I was very cautiously optimistic about this game, and I was scrolling through the Switch 2 menu system, just going, I haven't booted up my Switch in like 2 weeks, and this is a brand new system for the first time in 5 years. And I played Mario Kart, and I beat it that first night on that stream, and I never really went back to it. So instead, I was scrolling through going, man, I hope there's something else that I can use this system with. And boy, something caught my eye, which was Donkey Kong Bananza. I watched the trailer on the system, and I'm not a big trailer guy. I don't like watching trailers for games because I think, just like with movies, they give away way too much of the plot. Now, a movie's a little bit different because it's about an hour and a half, 2 hour experience, and you're sitting there watching a 3 minute trailer, and you're seeing basically every scene, just, 1 to 2 second clips of every scene in the entire movie. With a game, it's very, very different. You're not seeing every single level, but you're seeing a lot of the mechanics. And I was actually really taken aback by it. I really liked the idea of an open world exploration Donkey Kong game. And really, what kind of sealed the deal was the terraforming. Like, there's terrain deformation in this game that is unbelievable. It is so fun. It is such a groundbreaking mechanic, for a lack of a better term, and no pun intended. It's just super cool. And I really, really thought, oh, wow, okay. But as I watched the trailer, I went, oh, okay, it's not that different because it's the new Mario game. We're not launching the system with a Mario game, so we got to have something, to equate Mario to the system. Donkey Kong is basically very Mario adjacent. I mean, obviously Mario was the main antagonist for Donkey Kong, right? Or Donkey Kong was the main antagonist for Mario in the Donkey Kong arcade game, and that's where he made his debut as Jumpman. So why not? Like, I guess it all kind of fits together. And I looked at it and I watched the trailer. And after I watched the trailer, I put out a post going, wow, that Donkey Kong Bonanza game looks really cool. But boy, does it look like Mario Odyssey. And because Nintendo is just so tight-lipped about everything, they don't give away anything. Even the secondary character that you play with and as in this game was kind of obscured. You're seeing this rock character in all the promotional material. People are like, that's clearly a character. And so it ended up like people kind of uncovering that it was Pauline. And so when you look at this original promotional material before the game came out, everything was Donkey Kong with this little rock character on his shoulder. But as soon as they like unveiled the real final trailer, release trailer, it was Pauline. And you're like, why was that an issue? Like, why did they do that? It's just Nintendo being Nintendo. And I really despise Nintendo being Nintendo at this point. Their shtick has gotten old and stupid, especially for us people who have grown up playing these games over the course of the last 40 years. We don't need to be having our game characters obscured and trying to hold that off, because then they blow the lid wide open right before release. And they didn't even talk about this game until like a month before release. So you get like 2 weeks of going, oh, what is this rock character? Oh, it's Pauline. Okay. Well, that was pointless. That was a waste of money and art, but whatever. I digress. Anyways, so I really went, oh, this looks really cool, but it does look like Mario Odyssey. And it was really weird because as soon as the game came out, I was like going back and forth, going, I kind of want this. I kind of want this. But I also badmouth Nintendo a lot because I think a lot of their games are made for someone not like me. Very children oriented, very young family oriented as well. And that's not me at all. So, what am I going to get out of this game? And I wavered back and forth on buying it, but I ended up buying it anyways. And yes, it's a $70 game, which really stung. I don't like spending full price for games anymore. I think most games are not worth $70. I don't think most games are worth $40, to be completely honest, because we're getting so many games released with game breaking bugs, being completely broken at launch, having multiple months before we get a first real patch. We'll get like hot fixes, maybe, but all in all, we very rarely get a full finalized product at the end of the day on release day. Nintendo is very different on that, though. They usually do a very good job of polishing everything up before release date so that it is a full, complete package. So I kind of gave them a little bit of faith, right? Goodwill they've built up over the years. I said, all right, I'll bite. So I ended up buying it for $70 digitally, because why would I buy physical at this point? I've gone through it so many times on the podcast, but and I would like to actually do a full, like, maybe rant or conversation about digital versus physical. But for me, because I lost all of my physical collection that I grew up with back in my house, water damage flood about a decade ago, I just stopped buying physical games altogether and just digital only. But again, that's a story for another time. I just kind of want to give a little bit of background. So I bought it digitally for $70. I downloaded the game and I started streaming it that night. And boy, I was like immediately hooked. I could not believe how fun it was just in that starting area to just break everything in that game. And that's really what the game does a very good job about, is allowing you to just feel creative with your destruction, destroying little pockets and making tunnels and diving down and then climbing back up through another hole that you make is just so fun. Making Donkey Kong powerful and have him feel like he's powerful was such a genius idea, because a lot of Nintendo characters, again, let's be honest, let's call a spade a spade. These games are marketed for children, and standards and practices and all that really try to round the edges off of any character not being too scary, not being too crazy. And Donkey Kong has just been rounded out to this goofy looking ape. And that's really what he is. But they did a good job of making him powerful or feel powerful. So as the game progresses, basically you are Donkey Kong in a mine and you're mining out banandium chips and gems. And over the course of the first area, basically your whole island gets caved in and falls like sublayers beneath the Earth's crust or the planet's crust. And you have to find a way out, but the only way that you can find a way out is by going deeper. You can't climb out for whatever reason. So you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you uncover a plot, that this other company, Voidco, with the Void Kong and his like corporate crew, they are trying to do other things and kind of, just evil corporation, blah, blah, blah. You kind of already know like the main ideas here. So I wasn't really interested in the plot of the game, mostly the mechanics, and that's not me. I love stories in games. That's the driving force keeping me going through playing all these games, is a continuous, fascinating, interesting story. Now, there is a debate to be had about video game stories because most of them are kind of garbage, but that's only fairly recently and really, really early in video games. From 2000 to 2014, we got most of those stories in that decade and a half or so where video games were really trying. They were telling good stories. They had great voice acting for the most part. And, they were becoming bigger than movies. But over the course of the last decade, about 2014, 2015 to now, present day, there's been a whole, slew of underhanded propaganda and all of that stuff, which we do not need to go into. I can rant on it on any given day of the week. That's not what this is about. But I was really not interested in the Nintendo big bad corporation and Donkey Kong, the underdog, fighting the big bad corporation. The characters were not doing it for me. Again, they're written as a very basic surface level goofiness to the characters and no character development really is just whatever. I really didn't care about that. But again, the mechanics were so fun. And it really did bring that. I hate saying it because I think it is very overused. When people go, oh, it's childlike. I got that childlike joy that I haven't felt in years. I did get something like that. I wouldn't say it's childlike joy, but just joy. Just real, unabashed, super fun, smiling from ear to ear, because this is just a fun mechanic to engage with. Digging and pounding the ground and exploring and finding all the Banandium gems. And that's where the Mario Odyssey thing kicks in. Because at its core, this game is Mario Odyssey 2. People fully disagreed with me and tore me apart before the game came out. And while I was watching that trailer and I said, this looks like Mario Odyssey, this is basically just Mario Odyssey 2 with Donkey Kong, people said I was an idiot. I had no idea what I was talking about. Flame wars happened on the internet like they do. And then Nintendo said, oh, the development team in the studio behind Donkey Kong Bananza is the Mario Odyssey team. And I went, aha, I told you, because of course it is. I have been playing games long enough. I've been in the industry long enough that I know what I'm talking about. And when I look at a game, I can immediately tell if it's very, very plain as day, this is made by this company. I can say that, and obviously it was. And that's not a detriment to the game at all. Mario Odyssey is a beloved game. I personally don't care for it, but I was at a very different stage in my life, and I was expecting and anticipating a lot of stuff from Mario Odyssey, which that game did not deliver. Instead, it delivered a very basic, shallow Mario game. Mario 64 with all the eye candy that you could ever want. And that's what a lot of people like. I don't want that. I want something new. I want something different. I want something more deep than Peach is getting, Princess Toadstool is getting kidnapped for the umpteenth time and Mario has to go save her, right? Like that story's been done to death. That premise has been done to death. And the power-ups really weren't that great after like the first, handful. Again, this is not to bash these games. It's just to give you a perspective on what I perceive. So anyways, I enjoyed the game. I really liked Donkey Kong Bananza for most of it. But then we got to the ending. And this is a big spoiler alert, all right? So again, spoilers for the ending of Donkey Kong Bananza. So basically, you're fighting and you're chasing down Void Kong throughout this entire game. There are 16 levels to this game. And it felt, because this game is very Mario Odyssey based, you can explore one single level for several hours. And I did at the beginning. I was having a blast playing that game until the ending, or until about midway, where I was just like, dude, I'm tired of this. I'm not really getting much out of it. However, because this game does something very different than Mario Odyssey, One of the big issues that I had with Mario Odyssey was that all the collecting, all the exploring, all the things you're doing have no, not consequence, but no reason for it other than you're doing it and you're having fun doing it. It is a sandbox in a way. But with Donkey Kong Bonanza, when you explore and you find all the little trinkets and all the little collectibles, they don't not do anything. They actually do something. They give you a full on store shop that you can spend and use the items that you buy to get additional powers for your characters. And maybe your power up allows you to keep it for a longer amount of time. Maybe you buy a certain different breeches or pants. I love that they use the word breeches, but you get different pants by buying the things with the collectibles that you get. And that gives you maybe a buff on not taking as much damage from, a certain type of terrain like lava, or that you can swim 20% faster, something like that. That's what it does. And it's really cool. Also, like you get to collect ties, and those ties will do certain things. Like every time you bash terrain, you accumulate a little bit of regen health, stuff like that. It's so basic, but it adds a layer of depth to the game that Mario Odyssey does not have at all. Maybe they added that in, but I'm fairly positive they didn't. I beat that game when it came out, and I never loaded it back up. Because again, I just went, everything that I'm doing has no reason for it. It is just there for me to say that I did it. And that's not enough of a driving force, because I played so many games in my life over the course of my entire life that just saying I did this is not enough. I need some sort of hook and carrot type of thing, right? Carrot on a string, a lure of some sort, a checklist item, something to keep me going. And Odyssey didn't have that. Bonanza does. So right off the bat, I was just drawn into this game. But again, over the course of so many hours of streaming this game, I just went, okay, I'm ready to move on. Oh, I got to do the same thing. And then the fatigue of Mario Odyssey, or just Nintendo in general, kick in, where it's the same formula throughout the entire level. You drop down to a new sub-level, you explore it, you have fun, you maybe do a couple different NPC quests and things like that. You get a specific power-up for you meet the elder of that sub-level, which is an animal. Every sub-level is a different animal, and you get power-ups for that animal. And when you go see the elder, they're this big, massive animal like a zebra or a ape or a lion or an elephant. And when you see these characters, they're all old and wrinkly, and they don't look appealing at all. They just look ugly. They talk very slow. They're not hip and with it. And then every single one reveals the same thing. Oh, I'm old. Oh, I'm tired and about to die. But you know what I really want to do instead of managing this village? I want to be a DJ. And it's like, oh boy, really? Okay. And then you go through this process of finding a broken record. There's every level, every elder has this special record that they have where they play music and they have a music party. And Void Kong and his crew came in right before you were there and broke up the record. And now you got to find the missing record pieces. You got to bring them to the elder. The elder puts it together. And then they have a big dance party where you get a new special transforming ability, where Donkey Kong transforms into a character. And it's the same cutscenes, it's the same dialogue, it's the same joke, it's the same everything throughout the entire game. And this is the formula that I keep coming back to. I just hate it when Nintendo just refuses to change up the formula. Same thing with the Zelda series. And again, I'm not going to get on a rant on that, but if you start looking at the pattern and have pattern recognition, man, you'll see it all over. It's a fingerprint of Nintendo design, and I'm just tired of it. Like, I can't even be mad at this point. I'm just exhausted of it. It's not fun. It's not interesting. It breaks the flow of the game, and it's just the same thing. So you get the power up, and the power ups are pretty cool. I didn't really use any of them until the very, very end, or unless I was forced to for whatever reason, because Donkey Kong himself, number one, is the best character in the game. Number two, the powers run out. So as you're pounding the ground and deforming the terrain, you are accumulating little pieces of gold. And those little pieces of gold, you get thousands and thousands and thousands of little pieces of gold throughout the game. And you have to use that. You'll fill up a meter after you get like 100 maybe or something like that, little pieces of gold. And you fill up a meter. When you fill up that meter, then you transform into the, super fun, different animal type, the Bananza, as they call it. And when you transform, the music changes, and it's like this big mambo party music, and it's just fun. It's really enjoyable. However, I will say it's a little excessive. I think that was one of the big things. Every time I was sitting there grooving on the game and just really just zoning out and having a good time, I would get to this area where I would have to use the special power. So I changed the special power. The music swells up and it's just overwhelming. And it just creates this like switch that I go, oh crap, now I kind of lost my train of thought because it's just so different, or it felt very different to me. And I just didn't enjoy that as much. Maybe if they didn't include the music every single time, maybe that would have made a big difference. I'm not really sure. But I think we can all agree that the zebra theme is the greatest theme ever in that game, and it is just 100% always playing in the back of my mind. It is so good. So again, I can't be mad at it. But let's talk about the ending. So you do the same thing over and over and over again. You come into confrontation with Void Kong. Void Kong says, oh no, I'm never going to let you win. You win. And then he's about to deal a death blow or something. And then this big fist comes out and punches Void Kong, the bad guy, in the face and just knocks him to Kingdom Come. And it's a big green scaly fist. And it's revealed that it's King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong Country series, which I went, oh yes! Like I actually verbally got excited for it because it was subverting my expectations. It wasn't announced. It wasn't spoiled. Nothing about that was like alluded to, other than the fact that the game does have some cameos, like Cranky Kong and Rambi, and Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong. You do see some little nods and winks to the Donkey Kong Country series, but you perceive that, oh, that's just all it is. It's just a couple winks and nods. It's a couple cameos. To have the final boss get knocked out, you think that's the end, and the game goes, King K. Rool is here. And then he jumps away, and then you have another couple hours of gameplay when you think you're at the very end of the game. Now, most people love that. I personally don't. Mostly because, number one, I'm streaming. I stream late at night, so I'm usually very tired by the end of the stream. And this game just went, no, you have another couple hours. And I was just like, oh, I thought I was done with this. I was ready to wrap this up. And I thought that was a pretty good, finalization. So you go dive deeper into the planet's core, chasing King K. Rool, and then you start fighting some enemies from the original Donkey Kong Country games, like the Kremlins, the armadillos, the vultures, and they have the sound effects from them, like the oh and stuff. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So I really, really actually dug it. And you jump in a minecart and you're minecarting everywhere. Everything's gold, so you're just destroying gold and accumulating all this gold to just 24/7 use the Bonanza power up if you want. And there was definitely a few times where I had to use it. And then the boss fight happens. You finally get to King K. Rool. The boss fight shows up, and it's a 3-phase, boss fight, just like normal. And it took forever. I was so bored during that boss fight. I kept going, oh man, if they just didn't follow the formula, if they just went, you already had this boss fight that did the formula. Now you're having another boss fight and you deal with that formula. It's just the 3 phases. You know exactly how many hits it's going to take. You know exactly the animation that's going to happen. You know the cutscene that's going to happen where you defeat him and then you think he's dead, but he changes into his next phase. And then you think you defeat him again and then he changes into the third final phase. Like again, this is all predictable, and that's very boring for me. So not only that, the enemy is just super bullet spongy, just insanely bullet spongy. It's like a 15-minute boss fight, and I don't know any other way to fight him. I didn't look up any strategies. I didn't really do anything other than have one of the viewers come in and give me kind of a helpful tip right before he left, because he was getting late and he said, oh, you're really close to the end. Just remember to use the elephant power. Just spam the elephant bonanza. And I went, okay, it's cool. So I used that because he said that's like the best way to defeat him. And I'm going to take viewer suggestions and helpful tips to make the game, just go a little bit easier, because I'm not a big boss fight guy either. I despise boss fights. So ultimately, I beat the boss. I beat King K. Rool, and the game, I think it goes into the final cutscene. You get the Banandium core wish, and then the Banandium core is taking you out of the planet's core and getting you to the surface, because it's like Dragon Ball Z, basically. You get to the banana core, you get the core, and then you get your wish granted, whatever that wish may be. So the wish is like to get to the planet's surface. So this final cutscene brings Donkey Kong and Pauline all the way to the surface, just drilling through the planet's core. And the King K. Rool is knocked out. He gets back up and goes, "Nuh-uh, not today," and then jumps on his jetpack and flies after you. And this is when the game kicks into, oh my gosh, this is rad. Because this is exactly what happens. So basically, the next boss fight that you fight, after you finalize the final boss fight, you're getting this next boss fight where King K. Rool is chasing you as you're flying through the planet's core. The boss music from Donkey Kong Country kicks in. It's freaking rad. It is super cool. It is epic. It is awesome. And you basically defeat him, right? And you get to the surface, and then the next final cutscene plays. And then the game, I think, ends. I could be misremembering this just a little bit because it's been a couple weeks. So basically, the final cutscene ends, but then the credits roll, and it's Donkey Kong. It's the Donkey Kong Country fake credits, where the logo pops up and says, "Hey, you beat the game," but the logo looks a little bit different. And then the credits start rolling, and it's all bad guys' names, credits, and stuff. And then the Donkey Kong Country theme music starts playing in the background, and it's a joke. It's a psych out, and you go, "Oh man, they got me." I think that was actually at the first end. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But basically, anyways, it's a psych out ending again. So you get to the surface. King K. Rool somehow captures the core and gets his wish and wishes the entire planet to be destroyed and him king of Lava Planet or whatever. And then you have to go into this next level. where everything is rising up, the lava's rising up. And dude, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I'm just mad. Or maybe it was about 4. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have to do this level after like I put down the controller several times thinking I beat the game and ready to talk about like how fun it was and how enjoyable it was. And every time they did the psych out ending, I kept losing my patience. I kept losing enjoyment. The score on the game in my mind is docking points every time they do the psych out ending. There's like 4 or 5 different fake endings in this game, and it was just too much. And so it was like a breaking point for me, and I was just so mad. And it's funny because I actually clipped this in the game while I was playing it on stream. During that epic, core rising section, that secondary boss fight with King K. Rool, where he comes back and the music is swelling up, I'm commenting, oh, this is rad. This is how you end the game. This is amazing. I'm so happy I played this game and got this game. This is freaking rad. This is going in my top 10 for the year. And then they just completely wipe all of that emotional happiness and joy out to psych you out and make you go through a lava level, chase rising scene. And then on top of that, once you do that, then again, you have to fight King K. Rool a third time, a third phase, another part of the formula. And it's not even different. And that's kind of what got me really mad, is that it goes back to phase 1 of fighting King K. Rool. It's the same exact boss fight in the same exact location, just harder, more bullet spongy, and taking longer. And so I'm sitting there doing it and just getting frustrated and trying not to be angry on stream. And I'm getting really angry because I'm just fatigued. The stream went on for 5 hours. It's 4:30 in the morning and I'm just done. So I get really close to killing him. I've got like a sliver of life left, maybe about 8 hits out of like 150. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm nailing him. I've got him. We're gonna finish this. This has to be the final one because now they're repeating the boss fight. And then I die, and I'm like, no, I was so close, and I had to do the whole boss fight over again. And that's when I think I lost it on stream. I was just like, are you kidding me? I got so frustrated. I muted the microphone for the rest of the fight because I had to redo the whole fight again. Another 15, 20 minutes go by, and I finally kill the boss, and I win the game. The real cutscene ends. The credits roll, and I'm just mad. I've lost all my enjoyment at that point from the game, and I'm just pissed off. And then again, in just true Nintendo fashion, they just can't stop themselves. They continue on with the game. After the credits roll, it drops you back down and makes you repeat the first tutorial level over again. But at the very end, there's the Kongs, the Void Kong character crew. Not Lanky Kong, Angry Kong, and Penelope Kong, or whatever her name is. I can't remember. Penny Kong. And they're like now good guys or whatever. And it just would not end. Dude, this game was supposed to be finished like 2.5, 3 hours ago. And it just kept giving me these false hopes of false endings. Okay, it's ending. Nope. Okay, it's ending. Nope. Okay, it's ending. Nope. And I just got tired of it. And I did dock some points. I didn't actually do a review score or anything, but in my review, man, I was way nicer in the very beginning. But at the end, when I do an editor's note on my my review for it, I started just berating the game because I was so frustrated, so tired, so angry with how that game wrapped up, especially when they built up all this amazing moments And instead of stopping it at that cool, epic moment that I went, this is how the game should end, this is perfect on stream, and I clipped it and I even uploaded it, I just got frustrated after that. And it left a sour taste in my mouth for about a week. I did go back and kind of pick up the game and figure out what's going on afterwards, because like I cooled down at that point. And basically it just drops you into New Game Plus, where you can go clean up all the rest of the levels and all that stuff. And I just was like, dude, I don't care at this point. At this point, I beat the game. There's nothing to do. And it is one of the underlying bad things about streaming these games is I kind of burn out on them, and then I never want to go back to them. But that's kind of me in a nutshell anyways. I very rarely go back and replay games anyways. And I very rarely 100% games. At the beginning of playing the game, I was like, dude, I might 100% this. About halfway through, I went, nah, I'm not going to 100% this. Near the end of the game, I went, you know what? I might come back gradually throughout the rest of the year and kind of just clean up for like 45 minutes, maybe do a handful of, bananas and stuff like that. And so like a week later, I logged in and I did a little stream, a test stream, and I just played that game for like a good 45 minutes. And I had a really good time. But again, there's nothing to congratulate me on doing that. When I 100% that game, I'm just going to be able to give myself a pat on the back, and that's it. And especially with the way that I play games, how many games I play, the way that I do this business as game reviews and streaming, I just can't sit there and play Donkey Kong Bananza and just clean up the rest of that game for another 20 or 30 hours and, sacrifice all these other games that I got to get to. So there needs to be a culling somewhere. And that's where I'm kind of standing on is I'll probably not go back to it, but I did enjoy most of it. I had a really good time for a solid 20 hours or so. But after that, I went, kind of done. I'm kind of over it, and especially that ending. Getting to see King K. Rool show up and having to go get him and then doing that first boss fight, all of that was pretty good, except for that first boss fight. It was just boring and it just super bullet spongy. It just took too long. If it was cut down at least 2/3, it would have been perfect. And then having a fake out ending and going, well, that's it. And then you have to fight him again while it's, the background music is kicking in and all that. Oh, dude, so good. But then to do another fake out ending on top of that, and then make me go through a lava, rising level, and then fight him a third time and have it just be the same exact time as the first fight, but even harder with more bullet sponginess. I just lost it, and I could not care less about that ending. For me, if I ever do replay it, I will stop at that epic core rising moment and never finish it again because it's just not worth it. It was so frustrating. But that's my feelings on Donkey Kong Bananza. So let's take a quick break. You'll get to hear the zebra music, and then we will get into Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business DLC.
Come on, baby.
Okay, so let's talk about Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business, which is not actually a DLC. It was originally planned as DLC, but it's a standalone expansion, which I thought is kind of weird. It's honestly more of a sequel than anything else, but it's just maybe small enough to be considered an expansion instead of a full blown new Robocop 2 game. Anyways, this picks up right after the first game where you are Robocop and you're kind of just doing your Robocop thing. And then an assault happens on the precinct that you work at. And you kind of figure out, oh, it's this, band of mercenaries that are holed up in this Omni Tower from OCP. OCP is the big corporation from the Robocop franchise. They kind of own everything. And they have this big multiplex tower, basically, where people live in it. It's like a community and it's huge. It's a big skyscraper, and every level is like a community and a shopping district and a movie district and playhouse, and like all these different things are going on in that huge gigantic building. Hundreds of people, thousands of people live there, and it's been taken over by mercenaries, and you have to climb to the top to fight the bad guy. It's basically the premise of, if you ever saw the Indonesian movie The Raid, or the 2012 Judge Dredd movie with Carl Urban. It's basically the same premise. And it's kind of weird because throughout the entire game, I was kind of thinking maybe Judge Dredd will show up. Maybe they'll have some weird crossover. But it really is that premise, but it's done very well. The only things that I really had an issue with is because of my own personal desire to play it in VR. So there was some technical issues and glitches and crashes, and that was, I almost guarantee, solely directly tied to the VR mod that I used to play this. But I personally don't have that much of an issue with the technical stuff, because playing it in VR is like life-changing, man. It's such a game made for VR, and modding it and having these like little crashes, these minor inconveniences in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. It just sucked more than anything else because I was trying to play it on stream, and every once in a while it would crash, so I'd have to restart the game, or maybe it took a while. Like there was definitely a few times where I'm in the middle and a cutscene happens, and the cutscene is trying to render properly, and it just kind of breaks the immersion. And maybe like 1 or 2 minutes actually go by before I have the ability to regain control. So I'm sitting there vamping on stream and waiting for this to kind of fix itself. Sometimes it does, sometimes it just straight up crashes and I have to restart the game. So that was kind of a little bit of a bummer, but it wasn't the end of the world. And oh my gosh, if you heard me gush about Robocop before, I'm going to do it again. The Robocop Rogue City game that came out in 2023, made by Trayon, oh my gosh, it is like the perfect encapsulation of everything Robocop is. And what I really liked about it was that they allowed you, at the end of each level, you would basically sit in your Robocop chair and a psychiatrist would talk to you and kind of analyze what you're feeling throughout the game. And it gives you dialogue options, and those dialogue options allow you to kind of reveal more of Alex Murphy's human side versus the Robocop machine side. And it's up to you to do that. You can answer very machine-like and, no, they broke the law, or no, I was trying to help this person and they got caught in the crossfire. Like, that's such an interesting take on Robocop for a video game. You wouldn't think that you would be able to reveal the human side of Robocop, but they do it, and they do it very well, very tastefully, and I just think it's perfect and awesome. So when they announced the DLC or expansion, I was all on board for it. And because the VR mod that I use, which is called UEVR, which is a kind of all-in-one package for any Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5 game, it injects VR into it. So you just have the regular game, and then you load up the mod, and if it's got a profile built so that it's kind of tweaking some settings, you load up the profile, you click inject, and you're playing the regular game, and then all of a sudden you're playing it in VR. And it just adds so much to the gameplay. Being able to turn and aim with a VR controller. So you're aiming in real space and it's very precise. And then it also ties into the Robocop theme, right? Virtual reality, you're seeing the HUD screens and you're scanning data. It is built for VR. So that mod didn't exist when Robocop initially got released, and that's when I played it. So when it came out several months after I already beat the game, it was fresh in my mind, and everyone was like, dude, Robocop works on it. It looks awesome. And I loaded it up, and I didn't really have a good enough graphics card to run it, with super high end, but it did work, and I did play like 5 minutes of it, and went, yeah, this is cool, but I literally just played this game a couple months ago. I don't replay games often anyways, and this is not a game that I want to immediately replay anyway. So I just kind of, was that. But being able to play this new experience with the same mechanics and the same setting and the same characters and just having a new one to be able to play, oh man, it was great. So the only bummer thing about this, other than the technical issues because of VR mods, was that you do get to play as not just Robocop, but you play as 3 other characters. Number 1, you get to play as Alex Murphy, Robocop's human side, before he became Robocop. And I actually really liked that. I thought that was awesome. But they do make you and force you to play 2 other characters. And the middle character that you play as, this woman scientist, it's really interesting because her story arc, you kind of see how she came to be, right? And I really do like that aspect of it. You're getting chased down by a couple thugs in the middle of the night in a dark alley. And honestly, it's terrifying, especially in VR. You take on that role of a woman fearing for her life because, criminal men are like thugs are chasing her, and like, dude, it's really upsetting. Like it is really visceral. But afterwards, you're in this her apartment, and it's like this slice of life thing where you have to get ready for the day, and you have to check your answering machine, and you have to try on clothes and feed the cat. And it just killed all the momentum. And mostly because, and this is again kind of my fault with the VR, I had some trouble with the controls. And it's because the aiming on the controls is slightly lower than it should be. So when I had to like pick up a piece of paper or check the machine or water the plant, when I'm trying to do this, the line sight for bringing up the prompt, the controller prompt, was not working, or it was very, 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 very specific. And that became kind of a hassle while streaming. I was sitting there for like 45 seconds, 2 minutes, trying to line up the exact pixel perfect line of sight for the controller to register that it's in the right location to bring up the menu prompt. So that was kind of frustrating. And again, that was solely due to the VR. But the pacing of it got killed. The pacing of like having to, in the middle of this action game where I'm playing as Robocop and blowing people's heads off with my gun, I'm playing as this lady in her apartment petting her cat and watering her plants. And I'm just like, dude, no, stop this. I don't care about this lady at all. If they just left it up to the chase scene where she's getting chased, like you get it. And then, right after that, you basically go to this one place and you are confronted with the option of your muggers, your attackers were captured, and this person is offering you a chance to get revenge on them. Do you want to take it? Yes or no? And giving that option, it does help your your understanding of the character's motivation. So I thought that was cool too. It was just that little slice of life part with the apartment where I'm like, I don't know who this character is. I don't care about her enough to care about her apartment and her life and listening to her answering machine with her parents talking about her graduation. Like, I don't care. That was really the only major issue that I had with the game. Everything else was absolutely fantastic. And yes, you do play as a third character as well. You play as kind of cool. Again, spoiler alert a little bit. You play as one of the bad guys where kind of bad, but you're also double crossing the bad guy, and the bad guy finds out, like the main villain finds out that you're double crossing him, and you're slowly like backpedaling as he finds out, and then he beats you to death. So again, it really doesn't make a great impact, or it doesn't make an impact on the actual gameplay itself or the story, but it's a cool little vignette that you get to do. I think it went on a little too long because you do have to set up the plan, execute the plan, get out while you're trying not to get caught, escape, and then you find the villain's, main office, and then he confronts you. And that takes like 20-30 minutes. And again, in this game, while you're playing as Robocop, 20-30 minutes of just playing as a character who doesn't really matter, who you kind of don't care about. And especially for that bad guy section, you're just a red shirt. You're just a character that's going to die. So why do you care? Why would you care about him dying? Like, I don't. At the end of the day, I have no thought on or impact on me of that character dying. It was just some joke. I don't even know the name of the character that I played. Both of those characters. I know Alex Murphy, obviously, and I know Robocop, but the other two characters that I played in that game, I have no idea what their names are because they made such a little impact, or they don't even have an. I think the bad guy, I think they might say his name, but I don't believe you actually get to see it or hear it. But other than that, yeah, Robocop is fantastic. It's just few minor issues. And this is a smaller studio putting out these big IP games. They worked on Robocop, they worked on the Terminator series, and their IP like portfolio of building out these really, really good licensed property games is just incredible because we don't get that anymore. We used to get that back in the 80s and 90s all the time. Yes, there was some really bad licensed property games, right? But there were some really good ones too. And that middle tier of video game that we don't have anymore, that just completely dropped out in the mid 2000s. Like, it's such a bummer because we could have so many more good or decent games instead of the 1 to 2 games per publisher per year or per X amount of years. So it's fantastic, and it's absolutely worth playing in VR. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we'll be back with more podcasting. All right, see ya.
Your heart is like a diamond. You throw your pearls away. And as I watch you leaving me, you pack my peace of mind. Our love was like the water. It splashes on a stone. Our love is like our music. It's here, oh, and then it's gone. So take me to the airport and put me on a plane. I've got no expectations to pass through here again.
Okay, so let's talk about multiplayer. Okay. I got to have some fun here too, all right? So with Multiplayer Madness, it's our Saturday night stream where we play with the community. So we all get together on our Discord server and we jump into a game that we kind of all pick. So originally, we were doing a bunch of different games, and I've been doing this over the past couple of years, and it's never really gotten much traction. But man, we decided on Minecraft. I've had a Minecraft server for like my own dedicated server that I have on my server rack in my studio. I've had that running for several years, and it's only been open to me, and it was solely so that I can have a persistent level to play in VR. And it was so that I could play it in VR, all around the world. Not world, but when I was traveling across the country, I would be able to have my VR headset, jump into it, and be able to play on, online, connected by myself in this world while I was sitting in hotel rooms and stuff. But we decided to make it our Multiplayer Madness game every Saturday night and open it up to the community so anyone can jump in 24/7 and do their own thing. And it became this really fun weekly event for the last couple of months. So we basically started at the drop-in point or the spawn point, and we created a little community center and spawn point base where there were some houses just in case anyone dropped in the middle of the night and they needed to avoid the enemies. And then we started just building out, and people would drop in, and throughout the next few days, we would just kind of craft, just kind of basic stuff. I also went exploring on my own, and throughout the week, I found this one really cool little, not fishing village, but like this village on the edge of the ocean. And I dubbed it Pirate Cove because there's this like cave area where water actually flooded into this cove, this covered cove. And I thought that was really cool. And then I had a couple waterfalls in there, and I made these waterfalls basically become like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And so I built this like Pirates of the Caribbean dark ride area in this section and dubbed it Pirate Cove. And that's where we were all kind of meeting and like hanging out and building bases for another couple of streams. And then I said, all right, now that everyone's kind of accustomed to this game and everything like that, let's actually start a full playthrough where we go through objective after objective, checking off everything to have the full Minecraft single player campaign experience all together. So we first craft wood, and then we create a crafting table, and then we create some axes, and then we fight some enemies, and then we go digging and we find coal, and we build a fire, and then we find iron and we smelt the iron. Like just one after the other, the things that you're supposed to do in Minecraft. And it was really cool too because everyone was on board for the most part. There was a few viewers that kind of wanted to just jump in and do their own thing while we were all in a different part of the map doing our playthrough. So it was really interesting because we had a couple different bases set up. We had the spawn point base where you log in and you immediately spawn there. And then that became our little hub area because people started splitting off from the spawn base and going exploring on their own and crafting their own bases off of the spawn point. And I thought that was really cool. I found the Pirate Cove. Zephyr had his Riverside Lodge base with his wife. So we got Zephyr and Sergeant Splendid doing their own thing, building a really cool base. And we did a whole base walkthrough on one of the streams. That was really cool too. Faustism had his own like missile silo base in a tree formation. Like it looked really cool. And then JJ also did a underground mine base where it had just like all this super hardcore enemies. It was awesome. But I wanted to have our own playthrough base where we go exploring in a completely different new direction. None of us have explored. And we set up camp in a base and a home base, and then we play through the game. So we did that on the first main stream where we said, all right, we're going to go exploring for about 2 days of game time. Sun cycle, night cycle, sun cycle, night cycle. And by the time we get to that second night cycle and the sun again, then we should be able to be far enough away from our base that we can set up a new playthrough base. And that's where we'll all, gather together during every beginning of the stream and, go off and play the game. And that was really cool because, again, Faust and JJ and a couple other people kind of got together over the week while we weren't streaming, while we weren't playing, and build out the base a lot more and make it a lot more grandiose. And that was really cool too. Then we just started playing through the game till we got to the Nether world where we built a portal and we started exploring the Nether, and we built a home base in the Nether and we explored the Nether and found out how that works. And that was crazy because I died 1 billion times in the Nether. And it was just stream after stream of really fun, chaotic sometimes, but also a lot of really cool stream events. And we all were just having fun, hanging out and exploring. And again, because I am the newbie to the game, basically, I'm learning a bunch of stuff as I'm playing. And that was really fun because there's some veterans in the server, but no one really played through the game. Because yes, there's 2 parts to Minecraft. And the survival is what I've always played. I never really got into Minecraft. I played a little bit of it, in 2015, 2016. I played a little bit of VR for like a week or two, really hardcore, a couple hours at a time. And I would just, build like little dirt bases. And I never really got big into the creative aspect of it. It was more just learning and digging and exploring. And then when I talk to everyone else, everyone's like, no, we always just play the creative side. And the creative side basically has very little enemies or no enemies. I'm not really sure. And then it also just gives you everything unlocked as much as you want. There's no limit. So you just you can fly, you can build, any type of block or any type of armor or any type of, material. Like diamonds are very rare in the game, but you can just pop out diamond armor, diamond this, diamond that, and just kind of go crazy and nuts. And that's what everyone did. And it's funny too, because I always did the survival and I always heard about the Ender Dragon. And it was funny too, because no one in the crew ever played through the game that way. there are credits, and we got to finally do that and see that together as a crew, and boy, that was just enjoyable. So we beat Minecraft, and it took us, 20 to 30 or 40 hours of streams. Probably a little bit less than that stream wise, but everyone was in that server, random days out of the week. Zephyr and Sergeant Splendid were in there like it felt like 24/7. They were in there from, the afternoon until late, late in the evening. Even during the streams, while I'm streaming something else, they're doing their own thing and just watching and commenting on the stream. Like, it's super fun. So I really, really enjoyed that. And being able to say, we beat Minecraft is a really cool thing because apparently not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people beat the Ender Dragon. As unceremonious as that really kind of was, the credits go on for way too long. They're just goofy and weird and obtuse and kind of unnecessary. I still had a really good time with it. Then, just last night, we started playing our new playthrough for Multiplayer Madness. Again, I'm not a big fan of just continuing on after a game is finished. I really don't find much enjoyment once the credits roll, going in and going, all right, cool, because there's nothing to keep me motivated. I've already seen what the game has to offer. I've already done it all. Going back and doing it again is not really interesting. Now, Minecraft is digital Legos, so there's so much creativity you can do, and I've bounced into the server a few times since I finished, but it was more to kind of clean up some stuff, like building a minecart rail system from the spawn base to the playthrough base, where it took about 3.5, 4 minutes because I didn't understand how minecarts worked back then. But now that we're done, I can build a much more efficient minecart that is fully powered, that kind of just keeps the pace going of the minecart continually instead of having it speed up with a powered rail and then slow down with regular rails until the momentum dies and then it speeds up again. It's just full momentum powered rails all the entire way. So I do have a couple little projects that I jump into the server every once in a while, and that's fun. But I wanted to move on. And I really didn't have a whole lot of time this last week to kind of put together something. So during one of the Robocop streams, we were talking about Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Online. And I forgot that Red Dead Online exists because I actually played through a huge section. I'm level 77 apparently in that game with my secondary character, because when Red Dead Redemption 2 first came out, it was console only for the first year. So I bought it on the Xbox One, and several months after the game launched, they launched their online portion of the game. So once I was already done with the storyline of Red Dead 2, I loaded up online and I went, oh, it's the world that you inhabit in Red Dead 2, but you have like dailies and all this stuff. And I think I've talked about it yes, of course I have. I've talked about it multiple times because I played through it on the podcast. So you kind of know, if you've listened to some of the earlier episodes of the podcast, you kind of know my thoughts on this. But a year later, the PC version came out. As much as I tried to play through the PC version because Red Dead 2 is just such a phenomenal game, I did end up dropping it fairly early because I went, I've already played this. It's still very, recent in my memory. I remember every single line of dialogue. I remember all the little things that happen. So nothing's really enjoyable for me. I'm just watching a cutscene that I've already seen. I'm experiencing gameplay portions that I've already done. So the online portion is actually really, really cool. And I wanted to go back to that, but I didn't know if anyone else wanted to. And Sergeant Splendid and Zephyr were kind of pushing for it. And I went, you know what? That sounds awesome. Let's actually form up a posse and do the stuff that I haven't really done. I didn't do the nature specialist stuff. I didn't do a lot of the moonshiner stuff. I did the collector stuff because you do get a lot of money from the collecting, but that was pretty much it. So I was really interested in kind of seeing what the game is now, 5 years roughly later. And it's mostly the same, but there's definitely some of those bounties that are really cool too, that you do need a posse to be able to do it well. And I soloed that game. Like I do with every online game that allows me to, like with the Division and the Division 2. I soloed through those games. And man, having a posse playing through those games with people, other human people, is way more enjoyable. This first stream last night was kind of me getting my feet wet, jumping back into it after years of not playing it, remembering how the controls work and everything like that. So it was a little bit rough at the outset, but about an hour or so in, I kind of felt like I got my sea legs back, and I had a great time. And I'm really excited to do a lot more strategy and planning out a kind of rough, here's what we need to do. We're going to do this. We're going to get these gold bars. We're going to do the herbal specialist stuff. We're going to do, the bounty hunting missions for this, and kind of go through the whole thing and see what we can do. I also am kind of playing around in my brain if I want to re-roll a new character. I'm not a big fan of that. I have a really cool character, Ben Murphy. And if you don't know the reference of Ben Murphy, it's from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Riding with Death is the name of the episode. And the main character in that movie that they show is called Ben Murphy. And they keep making fun of his name. And so I've always stuck with that as an online moniker. Now, you can't take that, all right? Just because I said it, you can't take it. But yeah, it's a really fun game. I'm really enjoying it. I even want to just stop this recording right now and play it, because that's how much fun I had last night. And we got a couple new people into the stream, jumping in, forming a posse. Just super, super fun. And just hanging out and having fun conversations about movies and TV shows and life and all that, man. It's just a grand old time. So that's what's been going on for Multiplayer Madness. All right. Well, let's switch gears and let's talk about the game of the month. Now, this year, unfortunately, I've been so much has happened over this last year or so. We just hit our 1 year mark from being in this new property and new house. I love where we live. I'm so thankful and blessed that we live here. But it's been a pretty rough year, all things considered. We still have a ton of stuff that was never moved in. We have less space than we had in our old house, a lot more property, and a lot more animals. So my time has been greatly divided by trying to build out this studio. This studio is built out of a makeshift stables for horses. And so there's a lot of open air. It's not insulated, a lot of freezing temperatures during the winter, a lot of really hot temperatures during the summer. And I'm slowly trying to build it out whilst working out of here for regular 9-to-5 Joe job work, and also trying to stream out of here in the evenings as well, while trying to build out the studio. And it's very difficult. And so over the course of this last year, so many different things have happened. The weather has been a huge issue. I got sick multiple times, which I never get sick. And I got deathly sick to the point where I couldn't get out of bed for several days. So it was really bad. And I've gotten sick, I think 4 or 5 major times in 1 year. That's never happened to me before. I lose my voice constantly because of the noise, or because of the the atmosphere and the dust particles and the stable environment. Like there's so many different things that are going on in the studio, and it's a very uncomfortable environment too, which makes just being in here not fun. And I want to have fun. I want to be able to sit in here and just relax. I don't have a comfy chair. I don't have a comfy desk. I don't have this and that. And I don't want this to turn into a sob story. I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of an understanding of what's been going on. So all of those things going on has really killed a lot of momentum that I've wanted to have for the website, the streams, everything else going on. And Game of the Year has really suffered, or sorry, Game of the Month has really suffered. Starting out, I had such high hopes. I started doing, monthly videos, promo videos. We started with January Stalker 2, and I did this whole YouTube short of me being like this European Russian accent and going and shooting my guns and pretending to go hunt monsters. Like it was really fun. I immediately got super ultra mega sick for like 2.5 weeks. I also lost my voice. And when that game came out, Stalker 2, it was still new and there was a ton of issues. I also had so many game-breaking bugs and just game-breaking things going on with that I never got to play it fully. Like I got like 2 or 3 streams in and I went, I can't play this anymore. So it was really a bummer. And then over the course of the year, I've been trying to casually get back into Game of the Year, try and make a schedule, but so many things have happened that I just can't keep it. Along with the fact that I've been really busy at work. Work has never been this busy in my entire life. And I don't want or need to go into the details of that, but it's become this thing where I'm not able to do the streams as much just because I'm already in here for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And then I have to come in here and stream for several hours a day after that. Plus, I have a life outside of this studio. And it's uncomfortable and all this stuff. I don't want to get into it, but it's been a really trying year. So I want to get back into the Game of the Month, but I think because this year has become such a big year for video games that I originally didn't anticipate. And this is me calling myself out, because at the beginning of the year, because of how everything happened with the last several years of the pandemic, our big, huge releases were 2023, 2024. And I kept telling people, do not get your hopes up for 2025. 2025 is going to be a drought year. And it kind of was in certain ways. There was a lot of very, very big surprise game releases. Things like Donkey Kong Bananza, and we're supposed to get Metroid Prime 4 and a bunch of other things. And that's just from Nintendo, right? And we got the Switch 2 this year, a full brand new system that we were thinking was going to come out last year, but it didn't. And just so many things have been surprise releases that we didn't know were even in development. I'm trying to think of the name. Silksong is supposed to come out in just a couple days. It was supposed to come out a couple years ago. So who knows what's in the future, right? So all that to say, the gaming industry has just been really weird this year, with so many big games coming out randomly, kind of out of nowhere. And then me getting into games that I didn't think I was going to. There just hasn't been enough time to really do the games that I wanted for Game of the Month. And there's a lot of big games too. These games that are taking 20, 30, 40 hours instead of 6 to 10 to 13 hours. So I wanted to play a game for a Game of the Month that I want to get into. So I'm not going into the back catalog like I've normally been doing with Game of the Month, where I revisit a game that I really liked before, or I'm coming to a game that has been a couple years ago that I just never got to. I'm dedicating September's game of the month to Mafia: The Old Country. It's a Mafia game. And back in 2020, they did Mafia: The Definitive Edition, where they remade Mafia 1 from like 2002, 2003, the original Xbox era, 7th gen system. Then I played, and I also played Mafia 3 a couple years prior, and Mafia 3 was really fun too. I tried to get into Mafia 2, and just for whatever reason, I couldn't get into it. But Mafia 1 and Mafia 3 are fantastic games. And they announced Mafia: The Old Country is coming out this year. So it just came out. I haven't gotten it yet. I've just been so busy. But Mafia: The Old Country goes back into the early 1900s Sicily, and it's basically The Godfather, the game, right? Yes, there was a The Godfather game, but this is a little bit different from what I gather. And I have full faith that this game is going to be awesome, and I wanted to make sure that I set aside time to play it because, again, there's so many big games coming out. The Ninja Gaiden game just came out, and I finished that, and I played through it, and I wrote a review for it, so you can check out the review online on the website. You can... there's also the new Shinobi game that just came out. So we got two totally beautiful side-scrolling action-adventure ninja games, Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi. What a crazy thing within just 1 month of each other. We also got the remake or the remastered version of Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma or Black. We also got Ninja Gaiden 4 coming out. Like, this is the year of the ninja. So just ninja games alone, that's going on. We also got Silksong coming out in just a couple days. Like, September is packed. August was packed. July was packed. And it just feels like there's not enough time to play the games that are coming out. The first half of the year felt very droughty, but then normally around late August, early September, we start getting the deluge of games, but they're all spread out. This year, they're all falling on top of each other. You just can't keep up. In the beginning of the year, it was a drought. And then just all of a sudden, like game after game after game after game have been coming out. Some of them good, some of them not great, some of them interest me, some of them don't. But I wanted to make Game of the Month a thing again. I want to put it out there. It's just I haven't had the time to really push it. Like this month I was supposed to do something else, but I changed my mind today, just a few hours ago, because I go, if I make this game of the month, I'm not going to have time to play Mafia: The Old Country. And because September is my birth month and I want to celebrate my birthday, because I didn't really get to last year and I'm probably not going to be able to get to this year. I'm going to try, but it's just, life is crazy, man. I hate saying that because it sounds like an excuse, but it really is. So we're going to play Mafia: The Old Country. It's going to be a priority on this stream, and the streams themselves have just been kind of all over the place. I haven't played a whole lot of retro games. I haven't done a whole lot of theme streams this year, and there's so much to do. There's so many things happening that I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Like, this is just me putting all my cards out on the table for a moment and just talking. I just feel overwhelmed with the amount of things going on in life, plus the streaming stuff, because this is a secondary job for me. This isn't just I got some free time, let me go throw on the stream. I'm making the Discord a priority. I post every day. I post a ton of stuff, all new stuff, all trying to get people to, really actively participate in the server and have great game discussions. I'm making everything customized. Every stream item that you see on stream, every overlay, everything is done and handcrafted from scratch by me in After Effects and Photoshop. Every thumbnail is Photoshopped, and it's not some crappy, like, thrown together Photoshop. I spend hours on this stuff, meticulously laying out everything so that it looks good, because I believe this streaming secondary job is also my artistic expression. It is one of the things that I gain joy from by being creative. Just even the Photoshop thumbnail or the stream overlays. I am sitting there editing pixels and moving things around so that it's artistically pleasing to me and the viewer. So that it just has a cohesive feel to it too. And that takes time to develop. So all of these extra things that I've got going on are just draining. And that's, again, not a sob story, not poor Ryan. It's just, let me explain. That's what part of this podcast is. It's not just me talking about video games. It's me talking about everything. And I haven't done that as much this year. Last year, the year before, I was really trying to make this the podcast a once a week thing because I was playing so much and streaming so much. And then talk about movies and video games and TV shows and comics. And now I barely even have time to talk about video games. I haven't done a podcast in like a month and a half almost. Like, that's how crazy everything is. So I just really want to get back into like a main groove. It might take me a few weeks. It might take me a few months to get back into, but I am slowly and surely building out, I hate saying it because it sounds lame because it's not, an empire for Game or Die, where the website is going to have stuff. The Discord is going to have stuff. The Patreon that I've had going for several years and never really launched it is going to have exclusive stuff. And all of these things are things that I personally wish someone would do. I would absolutely subscribe to someone's Patreon if they were doing the things that I'm trying to do. And that's how I even have my streams. So all of that to say, kind of wrap it up with a nice little bow, is there's a ton of stuff going on in the Game or Die Discord, a ton of stuff going on in the Game or Die streams, a ton of stuff going on that will be coming to the Game or Die Patreon. And that's also that people can enjoy what I have to offer with video games, comics, movies, TV shows, and, great discussions and building out a community. I think it's really hard to build out a community that sticks around. And I want that to be so. I'm not going to say we're family. Like, we're not Olive Garden. You're family here. No, I'm saying that we're a group or a collection of people that have the same common interests, like a clan on like World of Warcraft. Like, we're all going to gather together at certain times and enjoy each other's company and hang out and have fun. That's why Multiplayer Madness, I think, works really well for the channel. So those are my thoughts. Those are my desires. Those are the things that I want to accomplish in the next several months here as we get closer to the end of the year. End of the year, oh, dude, if I can execute on it, we're going to have a great time. Retrocember is going to come back. You know that's happening. That's going to be a staple for pretty much ever. But I also can't wait for Game of the Year discussions because, man, I got to start thinking and start building out that list. It's starting to get close to like building out a list time. And like I said, I haven't played a whole lot of new 2025 games that are going to be on my list. But man, they're coming fast now. The first half of the year has just been dead. But this second half, like the next 5 games I'm going to be playing are probably going to be in my top 10. Like, that's how crazy this last half of the year has been. So that's going to be really, really fun. Okay. So let's just kind of wrap everything up and then we'll be done with this episode. And I'll try to make it a little bit shorter because we've been going for a while now. So, episode 92 in the books. We've covered Donkey Kong Bananza, Robocop's Unfinished Business expansion. Hopefully I'll be able to get to a really fun birthday stream, hopefully a little bit better than last year's. We talked about both the Multiplayer Madness for Minecraft and Red Dead Online. And then Mafia has been named the game of the month for September 2025. I think that's going to be awesome. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave a review. The last thing I'll say really quick here is the reviews for my podcast have been sabotaged by 1-star reviews. I don't think this is a 1-star review type of podcast. And if you listen to this podcast, if you watch me on stream and you like what I do, please leave a nice review, because it does, like, that's a really hard thing to be able to see as a creator of anything. When someone just says, no, this sucks, and I'm going to tell the world that it sucks. That's disheartening. And I have a very, very thick layer of skin. I'm a big guy, but I also have a thick layer of skin when it comes to criticism of what I do. I know that not everything I do is amazing, and I don't believe that most people think that what they say on the internet is true when it comes to criticisms of stuff. Everything is the greatest thing ever. Everything is the worst thing ever. No, there's a lot of just mediocre stuff. If you like the podcast, give it a solid review. If you don't, hey, that's okay too. But I am going to keep being me. I am going to keep being Ryan and having a blast playing these games on stream for you, talking with you guys in not just the streams, but the Discord, and giving out something creative into the world. It is so easy to see someone else doing something and tear it down. It is extremely hard for someone else, or for someone to create something. So yeah, I think that's going to do it. So next episode, I'm going to try and kind of keep it a little bit more concise. But when these episodes go long like they have, most of the reason is because I just haven't recorded in a while. So I haven't gotten my full thoughts out. I did not think I was going to go like 45 minutes into Donkey Kong. I apologize, but I needed to get that off my chest. All right. That's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you listen there. And with the next episode, we'll be coming at you live. I don't know, man. We're gonna have a good time with the next episode. All right, that's it for me. Have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care and God bless.